Coming up tonight on Game All Night, Dominic Crapuchetts joins me from NorthStar Games. This Week and Each Week is brought to you by Game Toppers. Upgrade your... Coming up tonight on Game All Night, Dominic Crapuchetts joins me from NorthStar Games. This Week and Each Week is brought to you by Game Toppers. Upgrade your game experience.
Welcome to Game All Night.
Well, hello and welcome to yet another Game All Night. I'm your host, Chris Whiphand, and with me always is my sidekick, bartender extraordinaire. Well, not always. With me usually is my sidekick extraordinaire, Mr. Dan. How are we doing today?
Yeah, we might have a very recent absence on my part, for which I was sad to miss. But I was reliably. There was a fine substitute.
Well, I don't know if it's a fine substitute. It's a fine person, but we'll see how the substitution went. Okay, just because you call them off the bench, we don't know if they can actually get a goal or not. So we're gonna stop with sports analogies right there because that's about as far as I go. But anyway, so welcome back, Dan. Don't worry, those of you every now and then, Dan has a life. I have less, so he may disappear from time to time with lifely duties. So that is fine. We plan for these things usually at the last minute, but it's great. It's fine. So how are we doing, Dan? What are we drinking tonight?
Oh, I'm excited about this one. This is Belhaven Wee Heavy. A Wee Heavy is a Scottish strong ale.
Ooh.
And this one's actually from Scotland. This is from Scotland's oldest active brewery, I believe. The East Lothian Coast's Belhaven. This is their 90 shilling Wee Heavy. It's a super malty, real smooth drinking. You have no idea how big a punch it's actually packing. And lovely style, lovely example of it.
It's very interesting. It's really smooth, big. It's almost like, got that porter thing going, but you can definitely tell there's some alcohol in here. I don't think it's so wee. I think it's more heavy. Yeah. So Dan, let's check in with our guest.
Absolutely.
Hailing Mr. Dom Crapuchetts. Now you are from NorthStar Games. Welcome, sir. Welcome. How are you today?
Thank you. Very good. Nice to be here.
So I need to know, are you drinking anything with us tonight?
Actually I am. I brought my special lady friend. It is from Jailbreak Brewing Company, which is actually, where's the camera? Right local to where I live. It's like, I think 20 minutes away.
Well, there you go. We're very blessed. I don't know about where you live, but we're very blessed. We have probably 5 good, high-ranking breweries right within our area that I would argue are, and that's just not local pride, because I'll throw that out the window if need be. But it's nice to find good beer close, right?
It's really nice. Yeah. Where is close? I'm actually not sure where you're located.
So I'm located just west of Philadelphia.
Oh, okay. We're close. I'm down in D.C. Okay.
There you go. So you got a nice little powder house of everything going on down there. That does make sense. I do know NorthStar is based out of D.C. You are Mr. NorthStar, as much as Bruce likes to think he is. But, that makes sense now. It's all coming together. So are we going to see you at Unpub? Do you fancy yourself?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. I'll come up to Unpub and I'll come and hang out. I would love to. I'll come up early. It's like a 2-hour drive.
Right. Exactly. Well, it's 3 for me, but it's, I'm going to try and make it down and see what this thing's all about, at least for a day. Hassel Kirkman and his crew, right?
3 hours. Wait, where are you one more time? You said Pittsburgh?
West of Philadelphia.
West of, but it's,
I
okay.
guess Pittsburgh's west of Philadelphia. We're not that far out.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
no. No, I'm about 17 miles west of Philly. So for me, it's just kind of, I can take my way. Either I can hop out to York and go down to Baltimore that way, or I can go out 95 and do the whole 695, yada, yada, and all that. So
Yeah.
I have options. I kind of like kind of stuck in the middle. Depends what Waze tells me to do that morning. I live by the whims of Waze, I guess. So sir, you're quite the Renaissance man. I was looking around your Facebook, and there's tons of stuff there for the prying eyes, I have to say. But you have a lot of hobbies. You don't just run a game company and leave it at that, do you? You do a lot of different things in your life.
I used to. You're probably looking at a very old Facebook page.
So we don't update it that much. That's fine. Don't worry. I'm not digging up anything. We just kind of have our little show. It's fine.
So you brought my old girlfriend on? Is that what we're saying?
Well, you're the one who brought, your mistress and your beer here. So.
Oh yeah. Well, she's just a special lady friend.
Special lady friend. So I figured we were just open to talk. But no, if there's any one thing that I definitely get from all my stalking that I do prior to any show, is you are a huge family guy. Like, this is definitely, I would have to argue that's probably like front and center, and that's what you put out there. So how does this affect your game life at all?
Hugely, yeah. So I had kids 8 years ago, and I'd say I disappeared from social media and even conventions, everything, for about 8 years. I'm just starting to come back now and picking up the pieces, and it is a completely different world. There was one place, it was the Board Game Geek, and I had a brand name there. Right. And I come back, and there's this Twitter and this Instagram and even Facebook. And I would say the quality of reviewers like yourself is much, much better. Quality of everything. I mean, the industry's just exploded, and all of a sudden I come back to I feel like a very, very small tadpole in a big pond, or even a lake now. I was in a small pond, now I'm in a lake.
But the important thing is you're here. I mean, you've still been designing, you've still been creating, right? I mean, it's not we still have things. Next week, we're going to play one of them together, I think. But so the most recent thing has been that you guys are actually, and when this drops, I believe the Kickstarter will have just launched. So I think the next big thing is that NorthStar, you guys are making oceans. So yes, we're kind of taking that evolution system and kind of evolving it, if we're to use its own phrase, right? Yeah. And we're definitely taking it deep now. So,
ooh, that's meta.
You like it? You like it?
I like it. I like it.
So, I mean, the art looks fantastic. Like I kind of got to see a few of the preview art images last year. I want to say at Origins, some of the people in the booth were kind of hiding them and kind of bogarting them a little bit, and I kind of got a sneak because I tugged on Bruce's shoulder a little bit to get a peek. And
well, he runs this company.
Yeah, well, he'd like to think he does. I mean. But I love Bruce. I tried to get him to come on and join us for our game tonight, but he's a busy man, and he loves his pinball, so we'll let him have that, and that's fine.
He's at a show, actually.
Well, I wasn't going to tell them that, but so what makes Oceans so much different that you kind of had to not just make an expansion again, that you wanted to do something different, but in the same kind of wheelhouse?
Yeah, so there are probably a couple answers to that. The first answer is this was supposed to be an expansion, a standalone to Evolution that could also be combined with Evolution. And my original goal was an oceanic ecosystem, regular Evolution. You can play them side by side, and there would be a card called Amphibious that you could play on either the oceanic species or the land-based species, which would allow them to interact and kind of take food from the other watering holes. And it turns out that thematically it makes no sense. Climbing on an underwater species, I don't even know how to understand that. There was just so many issues where the theme completely broke apart, and the theme is really one of the glues that holds this game together. So that's one of the reasons we decided to make it a standalone. I think the other reason is Nick Bentley was doing all of the early game design. He pretty much architected the structure of the game, and he's I think he wanted to clean up a lot of the more difficult mechanics to teach. So he is an expert at 2-player abstract games. Very simple, tons of replay value. The value is in just watching these emergent properties unfold. And he's amazing at it. And so he took a lot of that knowledge and created a structure based upon other Evolution games that works really well as a 2-player game, and really well that scales up to, it's 2 to 6 right now.
So I love that you're like willing to kind of step back. There's a lot of people who would just say, push forward and, okay, theme's kind of a cool thing to have, but and it might not work, but let's make it work and make it make sense. I love that you kind of said, you know what? No, I don't think it's going to work. I think that's huge. I wish more people would do that, right? Because
20 years ago, that would have been fine.
Right. But my Evolution box is overflowing already. I can't take any more than that. The box is bursting and I don't save, my stuff. So, I think I appreciate having a sister to live alongside of it. And then the beauty is, that now you have a whole nother world to expand and grow, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure. We don't have any expansions planned for it. So this is all we have right now. But the system is phenomenal. And I would say for this reason, well, one, I've been working in the Evolution game system since 2013. I've spent a lot of time working in that system.
Right.
But I would say where this game really, really shines is the CCG world. I was a pro Magic player for about 5 years, and that world is fascinating. The card synergies, it just creates this excitement as you discover these new interesting combos. It's very inaccessible to most people. So like it's intimidating. It's intimidating. Yeah. So that's why people who play Magic, they are Magic players. It's a lifestyle game. And if they look at another CCG, they're like, I don't want to bother with that. And that's how I feel. So even with a game like Seasons, I've played it a couple times, but there's a lot of text. Your first introduction to that game is, here's 10 cards, draft your deck. You draft I think it's your deck, but it was a long time ago when I played. And you're reading and reading and reading and reading and reading and trying to figure out, and then you're passing and reading, and it's overwhelming. And that's a board game form, which is a lot less intimidating than the CCG.
Right.
So we created an architecture where there's 2 different decks, and the base deck we call the surface cards. And in fact, you can play with just the surface cards. The game works perfectly. Has 12 traits and just 12 traits, and they were chosen for their accessibility, their simplicity, and for all the intricate synergies that they bring to the table. So there's a really great game with 12 traits. Then we have 2 scenario cards, which break like the structure of the game and really modify the environment. Mm-hmm. And then we have the deep, which is it's right now it's about 70 unique traits.
Oh, wow.
And what that does is that drives the long-term sense of discovery of like, wow, I've never seen this card. And these are all power cards that you have to pay for to play. And so they're impactful and they're exciting to see. And you'll play 20 games and still see new cards you've never seen before because they're slowly being introduced into the environment. And this structure, what it did is it allowed us to really know what the environment was going to be like, because the surface cards is the deck you start with. So you start with 7 surface cards, and you're mostly going to be drawing surface cards and playing surface cards. So we have a sense of what the environment's going to be like, which gives us the ability to create a really good, vibrant, deep deck, because we know what might be out there, as opposed to, this card could be cool if this other card or this other card happens to be in play, but they probably won't be. It gives us a lot of consistency in which to build that experience.
But it sounds like it's something completely new and different, which is great, right? Because you're it's going to be a long time before you work through all those cards and get to see everything, right? Because it's going to take games and games, because you're not just plowing through that deck. It's going to be a slow, steady pace through it. Interesting. I like that. That sounds really, really interesting. And it's also got to be a great way for you to add to it later. If you just want to add stuff into that deck and then also add stuff into, you know, the normal traits or the normal, you know, animals that come out. I think that's pretty amazing. So I think we need to give some props to the artwork in the game, though.
Is a Magic player allowed to dork out before you?
Are you allowed to dork out? Yeah, you're allowed to dork out.
Like, I was going to say, like, the beautiful thing about that, it excites me as a you know, mostly retired CCG player as well, is that reproduces the common versus rare, you know, interplay that you get in those CCGs, where the commons establish the base of the game, but the rares are these really cool discoveries and you know, mix things up, and it's cool to see that reproduced in a, you know, packaged, you know, consistent box.
Interesting. So yeah. So how much has the run into the retail? For instance, you know, you guys have made a very large and obvious push into targets and things like that, right? So we have evolution in the beginning and things like that, where the system, I assume you streamlined it a little bit more and kind of condensed the play space to make it a little more accessible. Is that fair to say that we learned things from that for this?
You're saying evolution in the beginning was streamlined.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yes. And Nick borrowed heavily from evolution in the beginning. Okay. And brought it into the oceanic structure. Yeah.
Right. Why waste all that work, right?
I mean, and evolution in the beginning borrowed from evolution. And even that was built upon mechanics that we paid for from a Russian biologist who was using it as a teaching tool. So yeah, it has a rich history, which starts in science. And in fact, I just found out today it was used at the University of Oxford. Well, it's been used at the University of Oxford in the evolutionary biology department, but it was just used last weekend at an event at the library there to teach evolution and science to kids. And I just posted, they just sent me some pictures today and I posted them like an hour ago.
That's amazing. I mean, it's got to be awesome feeling, not just to make a game that people play, but something that kind of transcends that and grows beyond those boundaries. I mean, you had a good core to start with, but I mean, that just doesn't happen, right? Like that doesn't happen in our world.
No, I love it. You know, I'm first and foremost a game designer, so I want the game to work. But the fact that I paid for, I don't want to say I took, because I paid for the rights to use these mechanics. And he was an evolutionary biologist and a teacher. And so I didn't realize that I was really borrowing some good science. I spent a lot of time trying not to destroy the science that I was given, but I didn't realize until afterwards how other evolutionary games miss the mark. And they miss it in two really simple ways. Either they're area control games, they're war games, which is not reflecting like a dynamic ecosystems where some species are evolved for this particular ecosystem, then they might seem like the top of the food chain, but in a lot of other ways they're not, or they don't even thrive. Yes, they are very vicious and they can eat anything, you know, they're the top of the food chain, but they're not really well adapted for the environment. So area control games like mimicking wars is one way they've done it. Another way they've done it is mimicking Civ games with a tech tree, where you kind of get better and better and better and better. And evolutionary biologists will tell you that's just not how it works. Humans are doing very well right now, and that's on a really small blip of time, but they can go through different time periods where our aggression and other aspects of being human would not be well suited for other environments.
Right, because that's exactly what evolution is. It's not decisions to become A, B, or C. The environment tells you whether you're going to be A, B, or C. So you don't really get a choice to run up a tree. The tree really gets to drive you. And so it's interesting. It's definitely And growing up from a Christian background, it was very hard to kind of justify the two worlds, right? You're just like, it's very hard to kind of balance that early faith you had with this stuff that's got to be science, and you don't understand. But who am I to say if anything did create us, the method of that creation was, right? We don't know. But that's as close as I get to religion. I'm like, all I know is I don't understand. I don't need to understand. I'm here. And I work in science for the rest.
Observable phenomenon. So evolution, over the millions of years, that's hard to know, but they can see, bacteria that's
right.
They can watch this over the period of generations, which is, in a period of a week. And they can see evolution taking place, or they can see whatever you want to call that process taking place as they adapt, as the ones that aren't adapted to that environment die off and others survive.
Right. It's like, but it's around us. Like things adapt, things have, they've adapted to environments everywhere from the ocean, clear up to the dinosaur. Absolutely. Right. So what made you really kind of take on the ocean? Was it just the next logical step once you got out of the dinosaurs and the prehistoric time? Was it just like it makes sense, or what kind of brought that on?
That's a really good question. We've got a lot of cool ideas. Mm-hmm. Rainforest is one, desert is one, so like different ecosystems for the land-based evolution game. Oceans was a obvious one. And in the first Kickstarter, the very first one, I think the very first post, we're like, hey, you guys get to decide. Should the next expansion be the ocean, or should it be flight? And everyone said, the ocean. And we're like, you understand how that's going to be. And then we just had trouble making it an expansion because actually what happens is very little of the oceanic ecosystem has anything to do with land. We could do a lakes and rivers ecosystem, which are very integrated with the lands, but basically the ocean's just at the very edges. So we just couldn't figure out how to make it work thematically, and so anyways, we're here.
Yeah. It's funny. I just my little designer artist coming out, like there was actually, what I always wanted Evolution to have was I wanted that the main feed board, the pond, and the water source. I wanted that to kind of be like an open, like a pop-up book that popped up a tree and everything. Like I always wanted to make that happen. I always thought that would be awesome, right? Like the pop art cards that, the board just opens up and boop, there you go.
Woo!
So
that's in my book. That's in my sketchbook now.
Steal it. I don't care.
I love that idea. That's a great idea.
I haven't really seen anybody do that yet. I've seen, we build things out of cardboard like Everdell and things like that, right? But never seen a board do a pop-up art. And I always thought Evolution needed the dimensionality, right? Because it's such a tactile and moving game, which I'm a fan of, if you haven't figured out. I love.
Oh, thank you.
And I'll sit there and I'll stare at the art and I just get lost in the pictures half the time, and it's just gotten better. Like Evolution was good, and then Flight just got even better. And, Climate took it again and said, hey, we're going to actually redo some of the original ones, and redid them and came out even better. And now Oceans looks to be even beyond that. Like, it's just like, I don't know how it just keeps getting better and better. It was already great to begin with.
I think Oceans will be our biggest version of this game. That's my sense.
That's awesome to hear. I'm certainly going to be there. Did you ever? I know you were asking at some point about doing some of the artwork as like stretch goals and things like that. Where did you ever come down on prints and things like that for the from the Oceans game itself?
I'm really impressed that you follow this stuff. Thank you. The goal right now is to be able to get any of Catherine Hamilton's art. Kathy actually paid for like a $5,000 printer, and she's done all the color toning and everything specifically for her printer. And she buys like really expensive paper. I think we're going to offer anything as add-ons, any art that you want from any of her Evolution stuff.
That's amazing. I'll be there for that alone. I think that's worth it. It's funny as we get, I don't know about you, Dan, but as we get deeper into the hobby, and maybe I'm not buying games every week like I did. I'm not coming home with stacks. I'm not hiding them in the car so my wife won't see them. All those things, right? But as I'm slowing down, I'm finding kind of some of the extracurricular things that go around it are what's really starting to come up to the cream of the crop. Have you found that yet?
Well, I mean, that fits you perfectly. I know you want to build the whole environment around the game once you've found it, or the interest once you've found it. I certainly like the accessories, but I really think we're at the very beginning of the era of like game art as art, like writ large. Like I think there'll be a lot more prints and game art pieces in the future, and I think I've got my eye on it.
Yeah, but I mean, as long as we have people producing games that use true art, as long as we have, Kathy making her stuff and, Jamie highlighting it from his end. I mean, as long as people are using these as centerpieces, I think that's only going to get better, right? Absolutely. Well, this is a great time, I think, to take a quick pause. And I might have to show you the video. Dom showed it to me before our call today. So I might drop in a little chunk, just so you can check it out. But I'm going to make you sit through a pun first, because, you gotta listen to Mr. Patrick Hillier. And I had the joy of hearing some of these in person. And the audio just doesn't do it justice when you have the sourpuss of Patrick looking back at you as he makes this pun, eagerly awaiting for your groan at the end of it. So stay tuned. Dom and I'll be right back after this. Pontifications with Patrick Hillier.
A bear walks into a restaurant and says, "I want a grilled cheese." The waiter says, "What's with the pause?" And the bear says, "What do you mean? I'm a bear."
There are countless species in the ocean. Every one must solve the problem of staying alive. Some solve it with aggression. Some by scouring the waters like huge vacuums, consuming creatures by the millions. Others by hitching rides on their meals. Dexterity and cleverness certainly help. And it's not bad if you can hide in a cloud of your own making, or become a cloud of your own making. But there are other solutions, more mysterious solutions, concealed in the depths.
And this week's Media Creator Shoutout goes out to Josh and Brandon doing the Brawling Brothers podcast. These guys have a morning show banter, and I can't get enough of it. Be sure to check them out on your favorite podcast stream. And we're back. So I'm still joined by Mr. Dominic Crapuchetts of NorthStar Games. Now, you actually started NorthStar Games. It's not just you work for them. This is like legit your company, right?
Well, I legitimately started it. I legitimately work for them now.
Gotcha.
Both are true.
Well, that's fair. I mean, we can let that go. So what did you do before you decided that I want to own a game company and, give away the rest of my life?
Yeah, you did some homework on this, didn't you? So I did captain a fishing boat in Alaska.
Right.
People love that story. I went up every year of my life for 30 plus years, starting when I was 2. Worked in a set net site, worked on my dad's boat, just lived up there, played with dogs, kicked rocks, skipped rocks. Captained for 12 seasons, crewed for maybe 5 or 6. Forced games upon my crew. They called it, their favorite game was the Vietnam conflict.
Okay.
I told them it was a war game. They said, nah, it's just a conflict. It's a Vietnam conflict.
So what made you say Alaska versus, say, Gulf shrimp boat? Was there a career decision that you could say, you know what, Alaska's a little cold, barely freezing water versus, Forrest Gump, nice weather, occasional hurricanes, whatever.
You know how when you talk to your psychologist and you blame your parents for things? I never thought to blame them for this, but now that I know I could have been in Florida, yeah. Right? This is a business that I took over from my dad.
Okay.
So he fished up in Alaska. He started doing that when he was 18. His brother said, hey, there's a lot of money up here. Come on up. And he drove a dump truck. He did a bunch of things. Then they got into the fishery. And he did that for 40 years and then handed it off to me.
So you're like, so I'm just picturing in my head a combination of ice road truckers, the Alaskan
Deadliest
fishing
catch.
Show, right? Last Catch.
Deadliest Catch, yeah.
Deadliest Catch, right? And then, you kind of also have, what else could be in there? It's just like a little Bear Gillis probably has to be in there at some point. Just seems like Alaska is like the last frontier at this point. It's not all like, built up skiing and, fishing towns. What's it like up there?
Well, so from when I was a kid till now is even a lot different. When I was a kid, we flew in, the airport was paved. So the runway was paved, but there are lots of runways that are not paved. We used to fly in on prop planes all the time on dirt runways. Then we drove in a bus down a dirt road. It took over an hour when I was a kid. Once they paved that road, it was a 20-minute drive from King Salmon to Naknek. And in Naknek, there's only one road. There's no way to drive in or out. Every car is barged in, so no one takes their keys out of their car. So people can joyride, but all you can do is drive down one road and some dirt roads. There were 3 bars in Naknek, and I think just 1 bar in King Salmon. And then a population of maybe 700 to 1,000 that exploded to over 10,000 for the 2 months that I was there. Largest salmon fishing run in the world. Okay. And it was crazy. I wouldn't say quite as crazy as Deadliest Catch. People died every year.
Sure.
But a lot of money, push yourself, especially during the storms when the fish are running hardest, because it reminds them of going upstream. And so boats would sink, and dangerous and fun.
So would you say that, because there's a decent amount of fishing, because basically Alaska is known for cod, king crab, and salmon, right? Pretty much. Yeah. And maybe halibut if we're going to go there. But
halibut, yeah.
So of those, I guess, would salmon be kind of like the middle ground, right? It's not crazy, but it's not easy conditions. You're sitting at the mouth of a river, which everybody tells you shouldn't do. Because there's so many currents, cross currents, ins and outs going on, right?
So we're within 2 miles of land most of the time. Well, no, we're outside of 2 miles of land because we needed an EPIRB. We're within like 5 or 10 miles. You can usually see land on a really clear day. We're in the summer, so it's not as crazy as the Deadliest Catch, which is in the winter. And there's storms which will wipe out a third of the fleets during this crazy, once every 20-year storms. The Deadliest Catch, actually, some of the main characters I was friends with. And I don't watch much TV, so I'd watch this with my brother, and I'd be like, whoa, wait, whoa. So these guys, in the winter they would crab fish, and in the summer they would be our tenders. So we would deliver our fish to these boats, and we'd buy our groceries, and we'd sometimes take showers there when our showers didn't work, which happened unfortunately on our boats.
Yeah, that does not sound comfortable. So okay, the chef in me is just dying to know, like, so the fresh salmon you catch. Like, I assume like one has to stay on the boat for everybody, and then the rest go back into the pot. How good is that? Like that North Pacific, like, I mean, we're farm raised Atlantic salmon.
I do not eat that. So I'm that jackass that goes into a restaurant and says, "Well, what kind of salmon is it?" And they go, "Oh, it's salmon," and I'm like, is it farm salmon? Is it Atlantic salmon? Is it sockeye? Is it king salmon? Is it Chinook? Is it pink?
Right.
Like, I need to know what kind of salmon for it, because I'm not going to buy it if it's not the right kind. That's me.
But world of difference, right? It's just that Pacific salmon. There's just something super good. Sockeye, which is only in the Pacific, and they haven't learned how to farm it, is definitely a different food class than farm salmon. And farm salmon's gotten a lot better from like 20 years ago when I first tried it. Right.
But no, sockeye is amazing. And when you literally watch it flip over and you choose the fish and it's still flipping, and I want to go into the gory details, but you cook it minutes later, it's unbelievable. And every time you eat it, you're like, oh, I'm just hungry right now because you're working really, really hard. But you're like, every day you're like, no, this is amazing. And then you get yourself to believe like you're providing this amazing service for the planet. Like, people are thanking us because this is unbelievable.
Yeah, I had no idea, like, because I'm born on the East Coast. I had no idea until like literally my wedding. And I was a chef before I got married. So it's like, but I've used some decent salmon. But then when I had some up in San Francisco, that was, flown in super fresh, and it was night and day. It was amazing how good it was.
Yes. And was it sockeye? Do you remember? So
I believe it was.
Okay. Yeah. It's sockeye. It's just, and king salmon is probably the second best, and it's great to grill because it's so big. Like, it has a really fun bigness to it. But sockeye is just better.
Yeah, I mean, it was smaller, right? Because they tend to be slightly smaller than our normal 5 to 7 pound North Atlantic guys. But cool.
No, 5 to 7 is pretty normal. I'd say 4 to 7 is pretty normal.
Awesome. I'm gonna have to see if I can hunt some down. I mean, luckily things have gotten to a point where we can get this stuff a little easier than it used to be, even like 10, 20 years ago, where we had to. It was like trying to pull teeth to get something off the West Coast, or it was super expensive. Now everything's expensive.
So are you still a chef? I don't think I'm not a. How does this work?
So here's the deal. So that's actually what my degree's in. I was trained to be a chef in the 90s, and I was for about 10 years. I did classical French and Northern Italian was kind of that was kind of where I lived, right? And then I kind of went into running restaurants because the chef life was, it's not all it's cracked up to be. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work when everybody else is playing. And generally speaking, the person who ran the restaurant, ended up still lauding over the chef. So I'm like, well, I want that job. So I came out front and I started running restaurants. But recently I've become an executive corporate chef for a small Greek kind of startup company called The Simple Greek that does kind of like a Chipotle build your own style, but with nice fresh Greek food and not all the food.
Good idea.
So it's
good idea.
Yeah.
So if you want super fresh sockeye salmon, I still have a lot of connections of people who now freeze it, like bring it over the roller. And I think if they use the right freezing, they can like freeze it in water. So if it's like a solid block of ice. I'm not sure if they do this, but I can get you super fresh. And the best time would be July or August. But it's like, and I will get you as fresh as it can be.
I will make a note, and I'm going to put that in my phone. And I might certainly take you up on that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'll do that.
So what other things do you do for fun? I know you also do some music, right?
I used to compose. Yeah.
Compose. So we're not just talking, you sit around with the guitar and you're the cool guy at the party, right?
I wish. No, that would be fun. No, I was like the geeky classical music composer.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. And then we do share one other thing in common. I don't know if you know this. Well, you probably don't, because I don't tell everybody all the time. As I do with cooking, I tell anybody who has a chance to sit and listen. But we also ski, apparently.
Ooh, oh yeah.
So where do you like to go? Because I know the skiing around DC's, you don't have a ton of choices. You might be able to get up to Liberty or something like that, but
yeah. Okay, so you're going to make me a little bit depressed to talk about this.
Oh, okay.
I was raised in California, so we used to ski mostly California, but I would say every weekend in the winter, because 45 minutes away, I could go to a ski slope or the beach, and then I moved out here, and my wife doesn't ski, and then I had kids, and I have not skied in a long time. My sister lives in Colorado, so when we visit her, we go skiing.
Okay. Well, that's not bad. At least you get to go out there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's not the Cascades, and it's not right next door, 30 minutes from home, right?
No, but my son is just wanting to start to ski, so I will be going up to Liberty with him to ski.
There you go.
We just haven't done it yet.
It's a bit of a drive, but it's still fun, get the family out and have some fun with that.
Yeah.
I finally got to go to Colorado myself, so that's a whole nother level of appreciation.
That's good
from
skiing.
It was gorgeous. It was gorgeous.
Oh, yeah.
You spend
There
half the
in
time
Idaho.
just going, it's beautiful here.
Yeah.
So I can appreciate that as well. So awesome. Well, this has been a lot of fun, Dom. It's been great getting to know you, and a lot of fun. And I still have questions. Like, you know what? Before I wrap this up, I got to know what's up with the slot machine.
Oh, yeah. So my wife's dad's first job was going into pool halls and fixing the slot machines. And so he retired like 3 or 4 times. He took a company public, sold it, took it over again, took it public, sold it, took it over again. So he retired at least 6 times. But in between these times, he would buy these awesome slot machines. Let me see.
Oh, nice.
Tons of them. So there's one. Hey, do I have kids?
Yes. A few.
I do. There's an old jukebox. My personal favorite is a claw machine, another slot machine. My personal favorite is
that's awesome.
the Water of the Bandits. And then actually, that's not my personal favorite. The one upstairs is much more beautiful. It's like from the 30s, maybe 20s or 30s, and it's just like a beautiful wooden antique. Amazing.
Wow. Who knew? I didn't expect the whole tour. That's amazing. I just have one that my father bought me many years ago. It's a Japanese slot machine that I can't understand anything like about this poor slot machine. But he thought it was cool. He's like, you have a game room in your basement. I'm going to buy you a slot machine. And I'm like, okay.
And it takes yen. So you can't even put quarters in it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't even know if I can remember how to get the thing up and running, but like I need to find somebody, and I could be wrong, right? It doesn't have to be Japanese. That's the problem. I am too ignorant to know any of the nuanced differences between what kind of Eastern slot machine this might be. So I could bring somebody over who speaks Japanese if I look at me like I have 3 heads. I don't know. I'm terribly ignorant. And
then the claw that we have is all mechanical.
Nice.
So I don't really know how that works, but it's like, so my father-in-law passed away, but he would come in here and he could fix the pulleys and the whatever, and somehow, and in fact, all these slot machines are mechanical. So like when he opens these things up, they've got these gears and all these different things. And so when you pull it down, it just somehow creates randomness, if that's possible, with gears. I don't know.
Wow. I'm sure that, but it's got to be awesome, and it's got to be a great piece to talk about because they're exquisite. I mean, I can see the detail from here, and it's not even the best of cameras, right? It's just incredible. Cool. And I have to ask if the One-Armed Bandit is kind of the guy who looks a lot like the guy from Wits and Wagers a little bit. who you guys might get to see next week as we look forward to playing that. So, all right. Well, this has been a lot of fun, Dom. Where can people find you, and where do they find information on the Oceans Kickstarter, since that should be live when they're seeing this?
So I would, for the Kickstarter, go to Kickstarter and search for Oceans.
Okay.
Maybe NorthStar Games. You can find me. I'm just crawling out of the cave where I've been with my family for 8 years, and I'm starting to do this Twitter thing. Follow me. I'm learning how, and I'm posting. That's where I'm going to post basically, my game designs. Mostly it'll be game design centric.
Okay.
And I used to hang out every day on the Board Game Geek, and I pretty much still do. So you can find me there.
And what I think everybody needs to know what your username is on Board Game Geek, because I just want to hear you say it.
So let me first start off with my name. For those of you who don't know my name, it's Dominic Crapuchetts. And then I have a little bit of a backstory, 3 sentences. I hate having different usernames at every single place.
Absolutely.
So I found one that I can get. I have this for Gmail, Yahoo, Board Game Geek, you name it. Dom Crap at NorthStar Games.
There you go.
Oh, wait, why am I saying at NorthStar Games? Board Game Geek. Anywhere. That's my username. I don't care where I go. All the video games all the board games
your
that I play, everything.
Site, everything like that. So.
That's my code. All my money is your money. Dom Crap. That was the email that I used when I applied to business school, and I had the lady afterwards say, "Well, I didn't really know what to expect when I saw your email. I was thinking maybe I should just put this at the back of the list."
It's like, it's like showing up with an AOL account now, right?
Like my wife has.
Well, there you go.
She worked there for 10 years.
Really?
She taught the general counsel of AOL right now. When she found out that her student became the general counsel, she was depressed for a couple of days.
That'll do it. But that means she did a good job, right?
Yeah, she did great. She's crazy. I couldn't do what I'm doing if I didn't have a wife that had a real job.
Oh, I think a few of us could say that. Believe me, my wife works way harder than I ever do, so that's fair enough. So this has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you so much, Chris. Really, really enjoyed it. You do a great job here. I'm really impressed. You are helping raise the bar of our industry and bringing people in and normal people in. When I was a kid, I was depressed. I was like, why can't I play like games with my friends? I always had to hang out with like the geeks and the people that no one wanted to hang out with to play. Not so anymore. I like it.
I know, right? Well, that was the goal of the show, is to have something that, a board gamer can sit down with a non-board gamer and share something together. That's the goal, right?
Yeah.
So
it's nice.
Awesome. And much appreciated. Much appreciated. So I don't think it can get much better than that. I'm going to call it quits. Dan, thanks for bartending. Thank you at home for watching. And be sure to look at the art and appreciate the person you're with the next time you game all night. Thanks for watching this week's episode. Join us next week when we play a game with the guest. If you enjoy our content, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Be sure to follow us on all forms of social media. Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook are the best ways possible. Simply find us by searching for Game All Night Show. And of course, check out our website at gameallnightshow.com. This Week and Each Week is made possible through the generous support of donors like these. Be sure to subscribe below and check out our latest videos.
No, not at all. No.
All right.
This looks fun.
It shall be. And the sooner we start, the more fun it is. Right, Dan?
Yeah.
Totally forgot with Mandy again, because I had my rent a sidekick. I kind of feel like that needs to be Angry Salmon.